In Pillar Chase 2, your whole objective as a survivor is to survive from the monsters and complete objectives until you eventually gain enough chance to play as Monster. That's the entire point of the game. There's really nothing more to it. But you're probably wondering, well, playing Survivor isn't that boring, is it? Well, it kind of is. But there are things you can do to spice up the gameplay, like for instance, Survivor upgrades. Going into your Survivor inventory in the menu, you can see upgrades, which these upgrades range in how they work, how they can benefit you, or how they can benefit others, or pretty much just to sabotage the monster. There are abilities that make you explode, abilities that make you cloak, abilities that give you a sprint boost. You get the idea. The basic upgrade that you start off with is Taskmaster, which is basically to help you get a feel of all the maps, understand their layout, so that way you have the upper hand when it comes to doing objectives. That's pretty much what it does. It just shows you the objectives in the map. Pretty simple. So eventually, as you play along, you probably won't use this upgrade as much anymore, but out of every single upgrade that there is, I would say that there is one upgrade that surpasses each and every single one in every single way. Because you have abilities that you can do on command, and then you have abilities that are passive. Now, what does that mean? Basically, you don't have to press a button to do it. It's just automatic. Which one of these passive abilities is Invincible. Now, you're probably wondering, what does Invincible do exactly? Well, Invincible takes any type of damage dealt to you, and it just lowers your stamina by a little bit. It's not a huge amount of stamina loss, and I would honestly say it's a pretty worth deal because, like I said, it takes any bit of damage. See, with an ability like Parry Stance, that ability is mostly used for M1s. So if you're going up against like an Inkfell or something and you expect the Inkfell to hit you with their M1, but instead they Devil's Rage, well, that's kind of bad on you because you just killed yourself. Because one thing about Parry Stance is that if you fail the parry, then you will take significantly more damage from the attack that's being dealt to you, which means you're most likely either going to get one shot by that Devil's Rage or you're going to be put into a bone break. So, like I said, Invincible is just like a better version of Parry Stance, but it is passive, which means you can't exactly control when you want to endure an ability or attack. Basically, every time you endure an attack, you will get this little audio cue that says, "Are you sure?" It's from Invincible. I get the joke, but it has a 80-second cooldown. Now that may seem like a lot to you, but let's take this into consideration. With all the other upgrades in the game, like Cloak or Rewind, etc., these abilities can be countered by very simple things and very simplistic monsters. See, Cloak can be countered by, monsters that have tunnel vision, like Vita Mimic and his, animalistic thing. Forgot what that ability is called. Or Balaam and his, Trickster's Truth. Very simple things to just counter these very basic abilities, right? Or Rewind. All you have to do is just be a fast monster so that way you can get back to where you were. It's not that hard to deal with. But Invincible is just a free hit, You can just tank a free hit with little to no consequence. You could tank a Devil's Rage. It's not like Parry Stance where you can only take an M1. You can tank anything. Now, of course, there are going to be monsters that play against Invincible, because obviously, why wouldn't there be? Because this is a pretty strong ability. But, like I've said, it's a pretty good ability for countering big damage mostly, like Springtrap's Axe Toss, or PCX's, You Can't Run. Simple stuff like that, right? But what can really counter Invincible's, extra hit? Well, basically attacks that do double damage in one. For instance, EXC's Too Slow. If you didn't know, EXC's Too Slow actually does 2 sets of damage. It does 10 damage on the first when he grabs you, and then it does 50 damage on the second when he bites you. I actually didn't even know that. So yeah, that's new information for me. So another ability that also counters Invincible is Niloticus's Godly Leap. Now, while it doesn't really do as much damage as EXE's, it still can apply the effect to you, so you're not entirely safe, and it pretty much just puts you at danger, considering you've lost your Invincible. So yeah, you're in a bit of a conundrum there. Now, Invincible does give you a bit of, invulnerability after you've tanked the hit, which I think is very good. This is kind of just like how parry stance works, where if you, parry an attack effectively, you'll be immune to another M1 for a little bit of time. I bet a lot of you didn't even know that. Yeah, that's a thing that works. I literally just figured this out like yesterday. But yeah, even then, I think Invincible is still an extremely strong ability because of one simple thing that I literally just figured out like 2 days ago. Invincible actually makes you immune to debuffers. Did you know that? Debuffers. For instance, Stricken's Custard. Yes, the Stricken effect will not cause you to take damage as long as your Invincible is still active. It doesn't remove Invincible at all. It just kind of just stays there. And when Invincible is still active, you don't take any ticks of damage at all. You can be in the Custard as freely as you want to be and you won't take a single bit of damage. Isn't that crazy? Well, here's another thing. It also works for Niloticus's freaking radioactive effect. Isn't that crazy? I didn't even know that. It's actually insane how good of an ability Invincible really is. And while it can be countered by a lot of, very simplistic things like Vapor Sparta-Skull, etc. I've said this before. It's still an extremely worthwhile ability for using in your kits because you get a free bit of damage. Like, who wouldn't want that? Now, of course, Invincible isn't immune to every ability in the game, right? There's burn damage from Vapor, Sparta-Skulls, etc., etc. You get the idea. And also, don't try and test it with Pow Hop. You'll get one shot. Trust me, I've done it before. It's the funniest thing ever, but don't do it, man. Don't test an MX, man. That ability is still scary at the end of the day. But yeah, I would highly recommend getting this upgrade if you're new to the game. It'll help you to learn how to play against monsters more effectively. Maybe even help you to learn how to shoot. Because hey, once you get hit with your Invincible, that's when you know it's time to skedaddle. Because duh, you don't have your immunity anymore. So yeah, I think this is a very great upgrade, very underrated one, and I think this is probably the best upgrade in the entire game. I'll say that until it gets nerfed, and if they remove the Invincible being able to be immune to debuffers, then yeah, that's gonna suck. But either way, I still think this is probably the best ability or upgrade in the entire game for survivors. So yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching.
Ow. Oh. Oh wow. Oh. Wow. Yeah.